Welcome to the channel all about economic board games. Today I'm giving you a run through of this game, Pan Am, and this is a 2 to 4 player game, says 12 plus, and it's Triumph in the Golden Age of Air Travel. And this one's brought to you by these guys here, ProsperoHall.com and Funko Games. Now this game we are going to be running airlines. We've got Aero Cosmopolitan here and Grand Olympian Air, and as you run these airlines you'll be getting different planes, you'll be getting more income, you'll be trying to get routes across this board and get a load of money to buy shares in Pan Am, and they will gradually be taking over various routes across the board, and whoever has the most Pan Am shares at the end of the game wins. So that's kind of your it's kind of unique really, where you're hoping to get taken over by Pan Am in order to get more money for these routes here and bonuses. The game will typically take about 60 minutes to 90 minutes, and today this run through I'm giving you a 2-player. I'll be playing as 2 players and there's only me as usual. If you're after a shorter insight, then you can check out my overview of this game I did last week, and I'm not going to go too heavy on the rules straight off. I'm just going to dive pretty much straight in. But just to give you a quick overview of the board, you've got this kind of interesting world map of, it kind of looks very different to most maps you see. But essentially you've got North America, South America, then you're heading into the east, and you've got sort of Africa and Europe down here as well. And the player guides are very useful for sort of sequencing the round. So the first thing we're going to do then is an event. So we've got round 1 to 7, and there's several in the box, and you would have picked one randomly from round 1. It looks like there's about 4 of each, so it gives a lot of variety from game to game. So we've got 7 rounds, and the first round's event, first thing we do, Foundation of Pan Am. So at the start of the expansion phase, Pan Am expands once along the Asian Pacific path, so that'll make a lot more sense after. And the stock price is what we're interested in on this card. So there's 3 bits of information, the actual description here, if anything occurs, which it does. You got the stock price and the expansion, which will make a lot more sense shortly. So the stock price, we're initially going to set it at 4, so it starts at a minimum of 3 and can go all the way up to 11, and that's the price of those stocks here that you're hoping to buy. So you want to be buying them cheap, and well, there is no selling in this game. Well, there is an actual chance to sell it if you run out of money, which isn't great because you get a reduced price of 2, so you do not want to be doing that. So that's the event then, and I'll just sort of show you one of these player boards. So this is Aero Cosmopolitan, the yellow guys, and you can see number 1's the event, and revealed it. We then do the stock price, and as you go through the rounds it's going to either go up or down, or it's going to be set to a new price. So it's interesting as to when you want to buy the shares if you've got the money, which happens in phase 4, the Pan Am phase. So number 2 is the engineer phase, and you start off with priority access, which is here, and there's no one there currently. That's always the case in round 1. So you go to assignment. So each company begins with some planes. You can see they're slightly bigger, but on the actual wings is like 2 indentations, if you can see that one, whereas this one's got 1, and there's basically 1, 2, 4. Now the ones are quite cheap. They're called tri-motors. You can bid on them here. You got the Clippers, which are the 2s. The Cruisers will become available in round 3, and they're slightly more expensive. And then the Jet, there's only 1 Jet in the game, and that becomes available from round 6. And they're all in these trays here. So you can see the Jets here got 4 in there. There's only 1 of each per player. A couple more of the tri-motors there. So that's where all the planes are on the side. So assignment then, basically your company, you've got 5 engineers in a 2-player game. That's these little things here. The start player is person who last went on an aeroplane, so that does matter in this game a lot actually, where you go first. And we'll just say yellows. So yellows are going to assign. Now you've got, it's nice on the board, you've got an alphabet, so A, B, C and D, and then E, and they're all going to activate in that order. A then, so I'm hoping to give you a few rounds. I'm not going to do a full game here, but hopefully give you an insight. We are going to go as yellows to go, so we've got no income on our income track. We've got a few planes. So let me just describe where we could go. We're going to go A, just for demonstration. I'm not going to play my perfect strategy. And they're going to go on any of these spots, and this is the cost they're going to pay to get one of these airports, which are probably just out of camera view. But on the side, we've got 5 of these airports, and they'll make a lot more sense shortly. So we're going to go to A for airports. We could go to any of A to E, and we're going to go for the cheapest price of 3. We don't actually do that yet until the resolution phase. Then it goes clockwise, so the red player's up now, and they're thinking, right, they've gone for airports. I could bid them up, and we'll do that just to demonstrate. So they're going to go to you have to go higher, so they've gone for the 5 spot. They could go for the 7 spot, but anytime you get outbid, any engineer that's below that gets returned, in this case to the yellow player. So they've gone 5. Now it then goes back to yellows, and they're thinking, right, I'm not going to go for 7 as a bid on the airports. That's a bit too steep. Let's go and demonstrate these destinations, which is B. So this is how you're going to get these cards. They denote various locations which are on the board, and they've got areas. So you can see Europe's kind of this purpley colour with this sort of symbol, and you got the sort of, what is it, a tiger, which represents this Asia, and that'll make more sense in a minute when we come to build routes. But let's just say they start with 2 cards. They've got Beirut and Karachi, and I should add that you start with a directive, which is secret. Now, all your destination cards are always face up. I couldn't find anywhere in the rules whether money's secret, but I find it a lot more enjoyable when you keep it secret, because there's a lot of bidding in the game and a lot of purchasing shares, so we find that useful. And the directives, which I'll come to shortly, they're kept secret for now, and you start with 12 money in a 2-player game as well. So these guys, they're going to go for New York. They want a bit of variety. They've already got a couple of cards which play out in the east, and they put it on the 0, which means at the moment they're going to get that card for 0. Over to reds, they're thinking, right, I'm going to go for Lisbon. They've got Paris and New Delhi. They're going to go for that one. Over to yellows, and let's demonstrate C then. So at the moment, we've got, this is where you buy planes. You could go for a Trimotor, which is a 1, or a Clipper. Now, they probably wouldn't do this just yet because they've already got a few planes. But let's just say they go for the Trimotor, which is, they're bidding 0. So these spots here with the varying numbers of where you're going to be bidding. Over to red, and they're like, you know what, you're not having that. They're going to the 2. They've ousted yellow again. So you can see how they're getting, they've actually only put one engineer on the board when they originally put 3. So they're getting these back. And this player order is key, really, because these guys have only got 2 places to go, and you'll see how this pans out in a second. So reds, we're going to go and explain what D is. So they're going to go there. That'll be the first company to build a route on the board, and we'll go through that in the resolution phase. Over to yellows then, and they're like, you know what, I want to get in there as well, because you can see there's no bidding on here. It's just first come first serve, and there's only so many spots. So in a 4-player game, you really want to get there if you want to build a route. Over to reds, they're like, right, I'm going to go and get a directive, and that'll make more sense shortly. Now you can see reds have exhausted all their engineers, and it's over to yellows, so they could be sneaky and go for this one now because they know there's no competition, and they're going to get it for 0. They're also going to go and get that one for 0, and they're thinking, right, well, that's literally all the places. I'm going to go and get a directive as well. Once all the engineers are played, you move over to the resolution phase, and you literally go in alphabetical order. So starting with A, and what happens here is they get their engineer back, and they are paying 5 money to get an airport. So 5 money goes to the bank. They get an airport, which is just on the side, and they can put this airport pretty much anywhere on these major cities. So you can see Seattle, and then this is the route line, and you got New York, so you can put it on any of the cities. And at the moment they've got Paris and New Delhi. Paris is up here, and New Delhi is over here somewhere. So they've got a 1 and a 2 in terms of the airport sizes, the routes. We're going to go for Lisbon. That's literally your airport. Every time you put an airport down, you go at 1 on your income. There's probably a lot of stuff that's like, what's that mean? What's going on? Why am I doing that? But it'll kind of make sense after the first round, as I hopefully explain it all. Over to, so that's everyone at airports. Over to B, everyone gets they pay the cost, so 0 and 0 and 0. So these guys got all 3 of these cards. There's no hand limit. That was yellow, wasn't it? Hopefully you can just about see that in the camera view. These guys got that for 0 as well. Oh, was there a 2 actually? I think that one was a 2, so they paid 2. So I remember outbidding it because one of them came back, didn't they? So these guys are going to pay 2 for the cost of bidding for that location, and I put those in the wrong spot as well. Here's me trying to manage 2 players again, and I think those guys got them. That's B. Over to C, we buy the plane, so no one went for the Clippers. Red ended up bidding 2 for the Trimotor, so that goes back there. 2 money, and they get themselves one of these little one planes, which goes in your fleet. You can see there's a little area on your company where you store your planes, and that's important because once routes have been completed or taken over by Pan Am, which you'll see shortly, then you get your planes back and you don't have to pay again. Over to D. So routes now, they can build, or well, not build, but they can take one of these destinations. Now there's several ways that you can acquire a route. Now Reds first, we'll take this back, and they have an airport in Lisbon, so any connecting route, they need both sides. So let's just demonstrate Paris here. So they've got Lisbon and airport. That means they have, what's it called? The rights to Lisbon in this case. And they always will do with Lisbon until they move that airport. And you can move that airport, I believe, once all your previous airports have been exhausted. So they're thinking, right, I want to attain one of these routes. And you want to get routes because you get extra income dependent on the number below, so 1. But let's just go with Paris as an example. Now, if they put a route here, a plane, they're going to get 1 income increase, but they need the other end of the line, which is Paris. And they do have the Paris card, which is great. So having the Paris card means they don't have to discard it. They keep the card and they put a plane that's equal to that number or higher. So they got a 1. They're going to put the 1 down here from their fleet. They've already bought the plane or had it to begin with, and that's it. They've acquired the 1. They go up on their track, 1 income to show that 1. You can always figure out your income when it actually comes to the income phase, because sometimes you forget. And that was literally 1 route built. Now, some other examples. Let's just say they didn't have this Paris card. Let's just ignore that for a second. But they had Lisbon. You could also claim that route by acquiring Paris by discarding a card of the same symbol. So you can see this symbol matches that. They would discard it out of the game and they could acquire that route. Or if they didn't have the same symbol, they could discard 2 cards of the same. So let's just assume the red player did have these 2 here. You can see they've got 2 symbols, the Tigers. They could discard those 2 to acquire that route as well, turn it into that symbol basically. So they're the 4 ways. You've got either having an airport, which claims one side of the route, having the exact location, which you don't discard, having the same symbol and you discard it, or having 2 symbols of any other matching, what should we call them, areas, and you get it as well. So that's the 4 ways to acquire route. They've acquired the route. Next player goes on the route is yellow, and what have they got then? So they've got a load of places in Asia. So we can most likely connect some of these up. We've got Karachi, which is here. And have we got Calcutta? Yep, excellent. So we've got the exact matching places, so Karachi and Calcutta, and the route is 2. So we can't put a 1 down. Remember, it's equal or higher. And we've got a clipper here, which is a 2 value, and you can see by the little grooves on the end. So we put a 2 there, and you can see it's kind of subtly different from some games. You're not having to put things down. You've just claimed the route, and you've shown everyone that that's been achievable. The income goes up 2. And that is literally the routes. So if you didn't put anything down here, but you had the planes, you ain't getting anything else. You have to remember this route on. Over to E then. So E is literally red takes a card, face down, and yellow. Oh, that was meant to be for red. And yellow takes a card. And you leave these here. Now you can have as many of these directive cards as you want, and they give you a host of benefits. And I'm going to show you what we've got. So red in this case, you can see the Pan Am Advisory Board. You can sell one of your routes to Pan Am, and this happens during the expansion phase, which is coming up. So they may want to sell one of their routes, and depending on how big it is, if they sold this number 1, you can see the route bonus here. Number 1, we get them 5 money. They also have a regional airport, so when resolving your engineer, so you have to have an engineer in that place, which will be in the routes. So that was when this was taken out. You pay $2 to place an airport. So basically, if they've got an engineer here on Futurama, they can play this card and then they can place an airport for $2, which is great because the minimum price is free. So that's their ones. I'm going to put them face up so I can kind of remind myself when to use them. These guys had a secret stock. Buy 1 stock at no cost at the end of the game. Oh, that could really give you the clinch over the win potentially. And wow, we've got 2 of them. Buy 1 stock. Wow, I've not seen that before. These guys have managed to get 2 of these, which Oh, that's incredible. That could really sway the game. That's impressive. So that's your directives, and as well as there's another benefit for going here, which I'll go through in a minute. So we've gone through resolution A to A. Step 4 is the Pan Am phase. So we do expansion. Now we noted that our card, this is where you look at the event. It says at the start of the expansion phase, Pan Am expands once along the Asian Pacific route. Now there's 3 main routes, and we start in Miami. If you do the advanced game, you can start over in, I think it was Rome. So you start in Miami, and there's 3 different routes, and I'm going to show you the dice. It's probably easier for the camera to view. You're going to head either to this blue and white stripy line, which kind of heads over to Europe, and you can see it flows over here, and that's denoted by that sort of symbol there, if that sort of focuses in. So that's one way that the randomness of the dice is going to go. You could also go to the sort of South Americas here with this sort of dotted red line, so you can see that dotted red line. Or so that's the second way it's going to go. Or the third way, it's going to go over here. I can't remember what that's called. And you can see it's got this sort of zigzag line. And this event card is telling us to go down the Asian Pacific route, which is what this is called, the Asian Pacific route. So we are going to get one of these Pan Am tokens. And we start from Miami, and it goes the Asian Pacific path. So you can see the first route is this one here, and it covers it up to say that Pan Am have expanded to that area. And I probably should have said in the overview of the game, Pan Am during, I think it was 1927, it started establishing itself in the early days of airline industry, expanding around the world globally and becoming one of the most recognised names in the world for airlines. And I think it was 1968 or something like that, 1970s when the so that's kind of 7 rounds we play out each decade, I guess it assumes, is when the original director or owner as such left the business, and maybe it started to get a bit fragile then. But as they went through that time, they were taking over these companies which we have, and you kind of want to be taken over in this game because you get these better bonuses. So if someone had have got Havana or spent cards to get this route here, especially considering they know that at the expansion phase it was going to go along the Asian Pacific route, they would have got bought out. And basically, to put your plane back, you'd have got $5 in this case for the number 1 route. And you can see if they ever take over a 4 route, it's 14. But you'll probably notice on the board, they don't actually, through the roll of the dice, take over a 4, because you can see the 4 here, the 4 there, the 4 there. They've kind of got these plane lines, which means you need the dice to be in your favour and have this icon, which I'll explain shortly. I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. So expansion phase then. The event card has told us to put a Pan Am token there on this Miami route, and it's also got 1 dice symbol, which means we roll this dice once. Now what's on here? So you've got various mixtures of which routes it can go of those 3, and the blue symbol, so I might as well discuss that now. That basically means that each player can choose to sell a route of their choice anywhere on the board, and say yellows want to sell this one for a value of 2, they get 9. Pan Am would then put a route here, and it couldn't be bought again. That route can be bought. You get your plane back in your area, which is great, and that's how you want to really be efficient in the game, to be able to not have to go back here to get more planes, get those planes out again, get more income, and remember, your income would go down, by the way, on that case. So that is what would happen, and that's great, because if you get some of these 4s out, which is late on in the game, you can see from round 6, 4, you get 14 money, and you really want that to happen, because there's no chance that the dice otherwise would go this way. The routes sort of go around it. So we're going to roll this dice, see what happens, and you can see we're going to be going down the dotted line, which is over here in the South Americas. And remember, we start from Miami, so this route between Miami and San Juan is now being taken over as such, and we're going to go again down this Asian Pacific route. So that's going to be the next one there. So those 2 routes have been bought out, and that was it, just 1 dice roll. And we are over now to the income phase. So each player, now this is where you like to double check on the board if things are matching up. So you can see it's 1 income for an airport, and it's whatever the number is below. So that's going to be 2, and they're on 2, and the yellows have got 2 as well, and they are on 2. Great. Over, so they're going to actually get their income. So that's 2 and 2. And I've kept the money sort of visible in this game because, yeah, I prefer it hidden, as I said earlier. It definitely influences the bidding and where you go from me. And finally, over to the stock phase, which is where you get to buy these 1s and 5s. Now, the current price is 4. The starting player, who's yellow, would decide how many they're going to purchase, and they've got 10, 11, 12 money, and they're thinking, right, I'm going to buy 1 because 4 is cheap, so they're going to buy 1. And this is literally how you're going to be winning the game. At the end of the game, who has the most shares is the winner. And again, I think it's advisable to keep them secret. I can't remember. I don't think the rules say whether to do that or not. Now, Reds are in an interesting position. They're like, right, I've only got 7 money. Why have they got so few money? They did go to the airport and bid on something. They did have to pay for a few bits and bobs. So they're in a precarious position where they're like, right, I know that they've just bought one. Am I going to buy one? Or potentially the price could go down in the next round, or it could go up. But you kind of need some money about you. You are a company. You are trying to get planes. You are trying to bid on airports. You're trying to get these locations. So you need some money about you, because if you don't have enough money when it comes to bidding and you make that mistake, you have to sell any stock you own at a discount of 2. So if it was currently 4, you would sell your stock at a discount of 2, which would be 2. So you'd only get 2 money for that one share, which would then be needed to pay for whatever actions you couldn't afford. I think they're going to pass on this occasion because they've only got 7. So already these guys are one ahead. That's the end of the round. First player always passes clockwise. And we start again. We reveal a new event. Remember the 3 pieces of information, the Trans-Pacific push. At the start of the expansion phase, Pan Am expands. Oh, wow, we've got exactly the same. Is this round 2? Yeah, right. Wow, we've got exactly the same card, but a different name. So you can see the stock price is going to remain the same at 4. I'm gonna, because I might not actually get another few. Right, let's have a look. Round 2. Yeah, you can see this is an example where the stock price might go up, if you see that, or even go down, and you just increase it by 1. But in this example, it's stayed at 4, which is great. We might be able to buy more cheap stuff. And it says again at the beginning of the Asian Pacific phase, beginning of the expansion, we're going to move it over this way. So people are probably looking at this next route between Mexico and San Fran thinking, you know what, if I get my route out there, I'm going to get bought out for sure, and I'm going to get $9. So that is probably something we're going to aim to do. And that was the reveal. Stock price still at 4 because it says 4 on there. We go over to engineer. Now, this is where this doesn't occur in the first round. We've got engineers on the directives. And Red was there first. So they had this during the resolution phase, but they now get to go first dibs on locations. And I should add that these should have got replenished once I took them. It may sort of sway your decision as to what you do. There we go. And I should remind you that if any of these cards weren't taken, let's just say there was one remainder, you'd put a coin, like in most games, to, influence people to potentially buy that on another round. So, but that wasn't the case, but that's what happens if cards don't get bought, which is kind of a nice little earn if you do go there. So they're replenished. Yet we're not in round 3 yet. We're good to go. And we are Reds first dibs, and they're thinking, right, we really want to get this Mexico and San Fran. They do have a New York symbol, which could be useful. They could spend these 2 to turn them into a San Francisco, because there is no eagles out there, basically. There's none of these symbols to go and acquire to then use it instead of wasting these 2 cards. But we have got this airport. And we've got a 2, a 1 and a 1. So we've got a Clipper and 2 tri-motors. But that is a 2. So I think they're probably going to go to the route first. And that's important because they get first dibs as to which route to go on. So, if Yellow's got there first, they may take that route, even though Reds have planned their whole round based on that. So Reds are going there first. Yellow's up next. And Yellow is probably thinking they want that as well, but they know they've gone there. They're going to go and maybe get a cheap airport. And they're going to go for 3. Remember, they could start off with 5 to sort of prevent others from thinking, I'm not going to go 7, it's too expensive. And they're going to go 3. Now, everyone's done it directive. It then goes to the start player, which happens to be Red in this case. If it had been Yellow, Yellow would have gone again. So Red is up, and they're now thinking, let's go and get Port of Spain for 3, potentially. And over to Yellows. I'm going to try and speed this up. They're going to go for directives. Red's going to go, they've got a couple of airplanes, a few cars. They're going to go back to the routes. Yellow's going to go for routes. I'm really speeding ahead now. Who was that? That was Yellow, wasn't it? Red is going to go, and they've got enough planes. They're not really fussed about airports because they don't want to pay 5. They're going to go and get another route. Hong Kong, shall we say. And Yellow fancies a freebie, and Red wants to get in on the directives action, and Yellow is thinking, you know what, there's no one else to go. I could either get a Clipper for 2 or a Tri-Motor for 0, and money is crucial, so they don't really want to pay much for the 2 yet. So there they go. Now I should say, let's remind myself of these cards. Is there anything interesting? So that's during expansion, and that's during the routes. Okay, I'll try and remind myself of those. And we've placed our engineers over to resolution. So starting with A, these guys are going to get an airport for the cost of 3. I wasn't even considering how much money they had, but they have got an F. So that's over to the bank. So where are they going to place this then? Now yellows have, interestingly, only a 1 and a 1. I probably should have gone here for the price of 2, thinking about it. They're going to go with New York, because it kind of spans out on a few locations. There's a 1 here, a 3 here, and they're going to go for this Miami route because they're hoping to get bought out, because they've only got a little tiddler with a 1. So they bought the airport, they placed it, they increased their income by 1. Remember, each airport is 1. Over to B, which is these ones here. So everyone's going to get them for free. Calcutta goes to the yellows. They really got a lot of the Asian tiger icons. Reds are getting that one. Hong Kong's that one. Take your engineers back. Yellow's back. And this one was remaining, so that's going to get a coin. We replenish. Over to C. Only these guys are getting a freebie. So that's a number 1, and they didn't pay anything for that. Over to D. Reds at first, so they're going for this route here. Now, we'll put that there. They have the 2, so it's equal or higher. We'll take this engineer to remind ourselves. Now, in terms of claiming the route, they don't have Mexico City or San Fran in their holdings, but what they do have is New York. So they're going to discard that card because it's the same symbol. And to meet the requirements to get San Fran, they're going to discard these 2 cards to act as that symbol. So remember, 2 cards of any other type. So they've fulfilled the requirements. They can put the plane down and their income goes up by 2 because that's the actual route there. Now, if, for example, they had a 3, and remember, you could put a higher one, your income only goes up by the number on the board, not however big the plane is. So that's why I kind of like to keep that visible. And the Reds are up again with a route. They have, let's have a look at their cards. You know what, I really shouldn't have probably got rid of Paris and Lisbon, because that was a couple of key cards there. Now you can see they've got Hong Kong, which is on its own over here. Port of Spain's down here somewhere, and New Delhi's up there. They haven't got any connectors to these, so they're probably just going to have to pass on this one, which is a shame. I can't really think of a way they can put anything down. No, because they haven't even got 2 cards to discard to work from this airport. So slight mistake there. They've wasted that. They haven't had to pay anything for it, but that's just how it goes sometimes. Yellows are going to. So they were going to go down here, weren't they? Yep. So they have got New York, the airport, so they own the rights to that. Now, Miami, they don't actually have Miami, and they don't have that symbol, so they're going to discard. So they've already got Calcutta and Karachi kind of used there. Yes, you could keep them still to try and get this route and that route, but they're going to get rid of those in this case. And they actually have 2 Calcuttas, I've just noticed, so there is duplicates in the game. So they're discarding those to match the Miami symbol, and they're going to put one of their planes there in the hope it gets taken out on the dice roll. That was, where were we? D. That was all the routes. Oh, we did have... one of these guys had the route 1. I'm going to play this. Let's just rewind slightly. When it was Red's turn, it says, when resolving your engineer, pay $2 to place an airport. And this happens in the routes phase. Now, this actually would have been great because they really needed that airport. And we're going to do this. So we're rewinding slightly. They're paying $2, and they did have an engineer there, so it's applicable. They pay that. They get to take an airport, and we're going to match it up in this case. So they've got a couple of 1s. We're going to go with the Port of Spain. We're going to go with San Juan, which probably isn't the wisest move because it's pretty limited to where it is, and it's not exactly... it's going to probably get taken over. But I'm going to do it as a quick demonstration to show you how you can get your planes out. Now, they've put that out, and it says during the phase, so you could have done that before you actually took your engineer off. They paid the $2, so that's discarded. So that shows the importance of directives. They then would have used this Port of Spain here to claim the other side of the route. Fantastic. They can then put one of these 1s down and increase their income by 1 in the hope that they get taken over by Pan Am. So, yeah, apologies, I've had to skip back slightly, but that shows the importance of looking at your directives and how important these directives can be to have. Over to, so we've done all the routes, over to directives. And yellow is going to get one of these cards. And let's have a look. So, Oh my days, I need to shuffle these better. They've actually got another secret stock. This is insane. This is almost... Every game I've played has been very close at the end of the game. So to be able to get 3 stocks for free, that's clinched them the game, in my opinion. I think Yellows have actually broken the game. Can you believe it? Really need to give them a good shuffle. And Reds went next. They've got the rapid expansion. When resolving your engineer, claim an additional route during the routes phase. So they get to put an extra route down and they don't need the rights. I can't believe, folks, that we've got these secret stocks. I've not really come across them that much in the games I've played, but to have 3 of them, that's a game changer. Right, these stay there, and let's resume. We have, where are we? We've done the resolution directives. Over to the Pan Am phase. Now, I'm going to end it this round, folks, and I'll go over a few little details, but we're going to do the expansion. And remember, these guys are on the event are going over to the Asian Pacific path, so these guys are going to get taken over. Great examples. So, this is Reds. They take their 2 back. The route was a 2, and they're going to get $9. Fantastic. So that goes to their money, and they interestingly get their plane back into the fleet. Pan Am's taken over it. We then roll the dice. Now, we should add, you reduce your income by 2 as well. So that's kind of the payoff, really. Do you want to get these routes that are kind of out here in the distance that aren't going to get taken over early, but because you get your income progressively over the rounds, and then with the intention of getting taken out, hopefully at some point, and getting this bonus as well, or are you going to build these routes close and just go for the income? It's interesting because it does come down to the luck of the cards and the dice as to which routes play out. Sometimes it goes over here more so, sometimes over here. So you could go heavy here thinking, yeah, it's going to come over, and maybe it doesn't, and you've spent that money to buy your planes, to bid on them, to get the right locations, and that investment you've made as a company doesn't pay off because you don't get these bonus routes unless you get some of these blue symbols, which is a must, really, because if you're thinking, right, you know, it's only advanced to here, there's only 2 rounds left, the odds of it going 1, 2, 3, 4 location, or 4 routes, should I say 1, 2, 3, 4 routes, it's going to be rare. So you might want to, this gives you a great opportunity to sell that route and just get the price of get Pan Am to take over. So that's the importance of that. We have done that one there, and we roll the dice only once. And we are going down the dotted line, which is over to the South Americas. Fantastic for Reds. They're going to get bought out. They have a route of 1. The airport stays there. Red plane goes back. The route of 1 gets them $5. And this squiggly line is over to this next route from San Fran to Honolulu. And because no one's there, it just gets taken over. So that was the expansion. Over to income. So just double checking. We've got Reds 1, 2, and 3. That's right. Yellows, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, we have missed one. That goes up to 4. Is that definitely right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. So you can see the worth of checking. Over to, yep. So we actually get our income then. So yellows are getting 4. Reds are getting 3. Over to the stock then. So it is beginning this time with Reds, and the price is still 4. And they've got a fair bit of money. So let's go. What should we go? We've got 15. We're going to go 16 for 4 shares because they know they were 1 behind last time. And these guys now think, oh, they bought 4 shares. Well, I know I've got 1, I need 3, but my money's a bit tight, but the price might go up. So they're going to pay 8. Oh, they can't even afford 8, really. They're going to pay 4 for 1 share, because it is a bargain at 1. So you can see already they're behind. They've just had bad luck with the money. These guys, Reds got bought out there, they got bought out here. So you can see getting that money early on lets you buy these shares, because eventually, I'm going to call it here for the round, but you can see, so round 3, it's going to go, it would have gone up to 5. Round 4, it would have gone up 1. So you can see it's getting, round 6, it would have gone up 1. Round 5, it'd have gone up again, and it would have gone up again. And looking through the deck, you can see, you know, there's a variety goes up. In this round here, what's that? Round 7, it would have gone up to 11 top dollar. So you'd have been paying, you know, double, if not triple, if not close to quadruple compared to some of the earlier prices. So you can see the flux and flow of the share prices there. Fascinating. So I'm going to leave it there. So literally, you would carry on past the start player again, keep going round by round until you get to round 7, buying those shares, spending your money wisely, and whoever has the
most shares at the end of round 7 is the winner. To break the tie, it's whoever then has the most money. Your aeroplanes aren't worth anything. Your routes on the board aren't worth anything. They're literally used just to get you that income progressively and hopefully get taken over as Pan Am expands and get this money. So that is pretty much it. And round 3, the cruiser becomes available. You can see the cost there. That has the freeze, which is great for getting some of these bigger routes. You got the 4 that comes out at the end, and there's only one of them there, which is great for potentially get one of these big ones here which should pay out. Now, interestingly, as you play a 3 or 4 player game, you get less engineers, which is a fascinating balance in the game, because you really want to do it all. You want to get these locations to be able to complete these routes, these directives. It's so frustrating when you don't get a chance to go there because you know how powerful these cards are. For example, in this case, they're going to get free stocks at the end of the game. Insane. You want to get the airports because they just give you so much flexibility. If you're here, you've got 3 different routes without having to worry about these, although they can be great if you get them for free. So a lot of interesting balance of where you're going to go and what you're going to do. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I've kind of forgotten. In terms of the game just looks fascinating to me. I love the look and the feel of it. It just really matches that iconic brand. Rules are really straightforward. It's not that heavy in complexity. It's sort of light medium complexity. Rules are pretty good. Some great videos out there as well. And that's pretty much it, folks. I don't think I've got a lot else to say. That it's a game I really enjoy. Highly recommend this one. And it can be a really tight finish sometimes. And hopefully this doesn't happen too often with these secret stocks. There we are, folks. Hope you enjoyed that.